Hey guys, welcome to today's video. Today, as the title says, we're going to do a little bit of a chatty get ready with me. It's going to be two things coming together. It's a little bit of talking about crazy stuff that's been happening in my life and where I live over the last weekend, and also using some products that I received in BoxyCharm or Ipsy and didn't really get a chance to do a review on. I'm not going to do an in-depth review, but they are products that I've been using, so I will just give you my opinion of them as we go along. I'm not going to do usual timestamps, but what I think I will do is timestamp when I'm generally using certain products that I might highlight during the video. So if you're looking specifically for information about like the crown palette I'm going to use or the brow product, you can click forward to those parts of the video. So I'm just going to use a little bit of MAC Prep and Prime to start, and I'm going to be using the Sephora Stick Foundation, the Make No Mistakes Foundation, as my foundation, which is not necessarily my favorite. I'm hoping the Prep and Prime will help it work a little bit better. So I live in Ottawa, and depending on where you are in the world, you may or may not sort of know what happened to us this weekend. And the very abridged version of it is that we had 3 different tornadoes touch down in Ottawa on Friday evening, and it's been very overwhelming for the city since then and affected pretty much everybody in the city. So let me go back to the start of this story. I'll start way back and say tornadoes are one of those things that when I learned about as a kid, you know, you kind of learn about all the different weather phenomena and stuff. I was terrified of them, and as a kid, it never really occurs to you that you shouldn't be terrified of something that doesn't happen in your area. I grew up in Toronto and now I live in Ottawa, so basically cities in Ontario, and we don't get tornadoes. We don't get hurricanes. We don't get, tsunamis. We basically just have to deal with having a lot of snow at different times is basically it. And there have been some disasters here like ice storms and things like that that affect people, but usually we don't have to worry about this kind of stuff. I think we maybe had one tornado warning earlier this year, and nothing really came of it. I think there may have been something sort of outside of the city that happened, but nothing big. So Friday morning, we sort of got notice of there were going to be like heavy winds in the area. So like take things off your balcony that are unsecured and stuff like that. Also this weekend, I had my mom visiting. She lives in Toronto, so she was sort of driving in, and then the plan was, I have a birthday coming up in a couple of weeks. My mom's going to be sort of away at that time, so she was coming to sort of celebrate my birthday. And the idea was she and I would sort of go out for dinner on Friday night. We would spend the day together on Saturday. Saturday during the day, we would go pick up my sister who lives sort of out in the suburbs of Ottawa. And then my sister, my mom, my partner and I would all go out for sort of a nice dinner together. And that was the plan. So Friday night, my mom comes to my place at about 5 o'clock or so, and like the wind is really, really heavy or really strong at that point, and like the clouds are all over the place. And some people, I don't seem to have this, got tornado warning alerts on their phones. And so if you're somewhere where you have a phone that does this, or people around you do, you get these loud beeps, and like even if your phone is like silenced or whatever, and it sends you messages to say about the warning that's happening. I just happened to go to, I think I was on Twitter and I saw something about a tornado warning. So I went to the Environment Canada website, and there's different levels of things. It's sort of like a tornado warning, like a special weather statement about like the wind and possibility of tornadoes. And then there's a warning, which is like, it's a possibility. And then there's a watch, which means like tornadoes are imminent, and basically like take cover. So my mom and I were planning on sort of going across the road to have dinner at, there's a pub just across the road here, brew pub. And, there's wind and everything, but we're looking outside. And at one point my mom was kind of looking out and saying like, oh, are those tornado clouds over there? And we sort of looked and we're like, no, they're just gray clouds. And my mom was sort of saying, well, should we get going, like over across the street for dinner? And I was sort of saying like, there's like a tornado watch right now. It's saying to, take cover. So maybe let's wait for a few minutes. So, it was windy, but I sort of look out over let's see if it'll focus. I don't think it's gonna focus, but basically I live in the downtown area, but I am on the west side of downtown looking west, so I don't look towards like the Parliament building and everything. And you know, I checked again and the tornado watch was finished. The warning was still there. We're like, oh, okay, we'll just go across to, you know, the pub. I'll just pause here in the story to say that I'm going to set my makeup with this Laura Mercier setting powder, Translucent. This is the one that everybody raves about. And yeah, I mean, it's good. I've been using it and I enjoy it. I mean, it's this little sample one, which makes it really kind of annoying to get the powder out of. I feel like I go through this powder really fast as compared to some other powders, and maybe that's just because it's so fine. It does do a nice job. It does blur pores. I'm happy to have it. I just may transfer it into another container so that I don't spend so long having to like shake out the little bit of powder that I use every time. So we sort of go across the road to the pub, and I mean, it's like raining, but not that bad when we go. And we get there and they sort of say it's going to be like a 45-minute wait for a table. So we decide we're going to sit at the bar for a little bit and have a couple of beers and then, you know, wait for a table and that kind of thing. And this pub is built in an old building, an old mill. So like the exterior of it is like stone. And there's one place at the back that's sort of this glass area, that's sort of this balcony that sticks out that's encased in glass. It's sort of cantilevered off the side of the building. And it was still crazy windy out. So we said, you know, we'll take a table anywhere, but not in that little area out there. And the water, like the rain started coming at that point, and the water coming down this glass area just looked like you were standing behind a waterfall. It was coming down so badly. And we're sort of there, and my sister, one of us sent a text to the other. She was basically saying how she was stuck in traffic. She had gone to get her hair done. She was trying to go pick up her kids, and she'd been stuck in traffic for like an hour in this one area south of the city, and it was just like nothing was moving. So while we were in the pub at one point, all the power goes off. And I'm sort of checking Twitter because it's where you see most up-to-date information. And that's when we sort of see the notifications that a tornado has touched down in an area west of Ottawa, like basically suburb west of Ottawa. And the sort of information trickles in that one has touched down in Gatineau, which is quite close to my place. Basically there's Ottawa, there's a river, and then there's Gatineau up above, and my place is like the mill that we were on was on the river that divides the two. And then there was also a tornado that touched down south in the suburbs there, which is also, and we didn't figure this out until later, which meant that we knew my sister was okay by the time we figured this out, is that she was driving near the area where that was happening, and like hydro wires were coming down. She said it was like driving through a, like she stopped the car, like the traffic wasn't moving anyway. It was like driving through a car wash. There was so much water coming down. I'm gonna go in with this blush, this Pixi by Petra Fresh Face Blush in Beach Rose. I received this 2 months ago in my BoxyCharm subscription, I believe. And it is a gorgeous color. It's this like pink that has undertones of brown in it, so it looks quite natural and just sort of gives you a really healthy looking natural glow. So my mom and I stayed at the pub for about another hour, sort of finishing our beers. We had nowhere to be at that point. They were just on emergency power in there, so just a couple of lights on. And I kept checking Twitter and seeing sort of the destruction that had happened in these different places, and news that power was out like across the city. The tornadoes and microbursts and things like that had hit some of the power stations in the south end of the city. So there were like whole things that were just gone. And so after being there for a couple of hours, or an hour or so, we decided to leave and come home. What was interesting at that point is everything, like it was still a little windy, but everything was clear. It was like blue sky and like a beautiful sunset. One of the reasons we decided not to stay any longer was they weren't going to be able to make food. There was not only no power, but even with gas ovens and things like that, the kitchen is underground and it was just in the dark. They couldn't do anything. but also because it was getting dark outside, and so it was just going to be pitch black in the place. So yeah, we left and it was like beautiful out at that point outside. And we came home and didn't have, I mean, all the power was out. Just sort of had like an apple and a muffin for dinner. Very glad that my mom brought those with her when she came. For the eye look, I'm not going to talk too much about what I'm doing, but I'm going to use this Crown Fuego palette. This is absolutely gorgeous. I didn't get a chance to do a review on this because life was very busy at the point when we got this, but it is absolutely gorgeous, and the shimmer shades in here are just beautiful. Like, I'll just sort of swatch there. They have this really nice like red, but also, I'll just turn this light down a little bit, red but also gold reflect to them. So they are just beautiful shades. Playing around with the lighting here a little bit. But they're just really, really nice. And the mattes are also really nice in this palette. And I'll just mention that the brushes that I'll use for this are the 3 from Alamar that we received in our September BoxyCharm. So I'll just say that my story about this whole tornado incident has been, like, I've had it the easiest out of like everybody in the city. So we sort of went to bed pretty early because there wasn't a whole lot to do. My sister made it back to her place and picked up her kids, and her place was fine. You know, also no power, but you know, they were okay. And we all sort of woke up the next morning with no power and sort of getting information about everything that had sort of happened overnight. So for my mom and I waking up the next morning, you know, there was no damage in our place. In my place, it was just basically there was no power. And so we sort of set out to go. Twitter just gives you so much more information than anything else in these sort of situations. So we had heard that sort of from the downtown core, there was sort of a dividing line where everything east of there had power. And hadn't really been affected, or their power came on within a couple of hours. So we headed out to go to a Starbucks, get some coffee. The first one that we came to, you know, the wait was like 20 minutes to get coffee, but not too bad. But you know, across the rest of the city, they were figuring out that there were probably like, Ottawa has about 1 million people in it, and I think there were like 400,000 people without power across the city. And specifically in one place in the South End, the one that we thought my sister was going to be affected by, but then ended up not being as bad for her, specifically, there was a whole power station that had just been leveled. Like, it looked like a bomb went off. So they're rebuilding it basically from nothing in order to get power to some of the folks that it serves. So in all of this, it seemed like the hardest hit area was the one west of the city in Dunrobin, where there are whole neighborhoods where people's homes are just like leveled. The Gatineau I haven't heard as much about. It's in Quebec, so I tend to get a little bit more Ontario news, but there were areas there that were really badly affected. And then south of the city, unfortunately, and sort of trying to keep people's privacy here and stuff, somebody very close to me, one of their family members, was in one of the areas that was just adjacent, like on the street basically where a tornado touched down. So in their neighborhood, all of the trees are down, people's like roofs have been pulled up, shingles pulled off, just roofs completely damaged. And so this person had a couple of trees from their yard come down, and one tree came down on someone else's house. So I have people close to me who have been dealing with that, you know, figuring out who's responsible for what and how that all works. I was very lucky in my place that the power came on at about 6 p.m. on Saturday. So it was only out for about 24 hours total. Now, one of the things that really helps when stuff like this happens is you really see everybody helping out. So in addition to, you know, the city setting up places where people could go to shower because hot water tanks weren't working, and charge up devices and things like that. You also saw a lot of people who happened to have power, you know, cooking food for people and giving it out for free, giving out coffee, offering people to, you know, feel free to come over and charge devices and take showers at their places, stuff like that. So I would say a large wave of people got their power on Saturday at about 6 p.m. Another whole wave of people got their power on Sunday, sort of late in the day, so around 8 p.m. And I think they said as of this morning, there's still about 10,000 people without power, and those ones are the ones that are really heavily affected that are going to take a while longer to be done. It's not something that ever happens in this area, so it's very strange. I'm going to add a little bit of silver just to the inside eye with this foiled, again, the Balm single eyeshadow. This one is in the shade Locked Up. You know, all this experience does make me feel very lucky that I live somewhere where I can walk to get what I need, or it just be sort of out there. So I, you know, am able to walk and pick up like any groceries or anything like that. Or, you know, I guess it was luck of the draw that somewhere near me still had power, so I could go and get like a coffee. My mom and I were able to walk to a market that still had power to pick up a couple of things for lunch. So that all worked out. And we were also incredibly lucky that this didn't happen because of really cold weather or really hot weather. So before I moved to Ottawa, one of the things that had happened here was that I want to say maybe about 10 years ago, there was an ice storm, and that happened, of course, in the dead of winter. But what an ice storm means is it's almost like freezing rain that comes down and then it covers everything in ice. So that happened, and it basically took down a whole lot of trees. But even more than that, all of the hydro wires became encased in ice and all fell. So back then it took, you know, many people didn't have power for 1 to 2 weeks. And then that's also happening when it's freezing cold outside. So there were a lot of people who couldn't stay in their homes because it was too cold. There were a lot of farmers who lost all their livestock because they couldn't keep their barns warm. There were a lot more issues that happen when the power goes out like that in really cold points. Also, just in my own personal experience, 15 years ago, there was a big blackout all across the eastern seaboard. That was when I was still living in Toronto. That happened in like the heat of summer. And they sort of think that part of the reason why that happened may have been because of people using like their air conditionings and just a lot of stress on the grid. And when that happened, when I lived in Toronto, the blackout happened when I was on a subway, in a subway tunnel in between stations on like the exact opposite end of the city from where I lived. And that one where I lived, the power was out for 4 to 5 days. So that for me was much more of an extreme sort of thing. And it was so hot. I mean, we were really lucky that the temperature outside over the last few days has been like, you know, 15 to 20 degrees. So it hasn't mattered if people's air conditionings or heating wasn't working. Okay, so I think for this look, I'm not going to use a regular liner, but I am going to go into sort of the darkest brown shade here with a little flat brush and just use that to sort of line the top lash line a little. I am now going to go in with mascara, this Wander Beauty Unlashed Volume and Curl Mascara. I love this. Didn't get a chance to do a video on it, but I love the formula of this. I love that it doesn't smudge, it doesn't flake, and I absolutely love the shape of the brush for getting in at lower lashes. It is just probably my favorite go-to mascara right now. It really thickens and lengthens the lashes while still looking very natural, so you're not going to get everything all clumped together. Just in my opinion, provides a very natural but volumized and lengthened look. And then, as I said, because of the shape of it being a curve, it's very easy to get in at the lower lashes. However, I'm not going to do that while talking. I'll finish my story about the tornadoes over the weekend and everything that happened with the best news in all of this, which is that nobody died. It's amazing to look at the destruction that happened and people's homes being leveled down to the foundation. And there were some people who were injured, but there have been no deaths from the storm. which is just incredible. For my brows, I'm going to use this Chella Tantalizing Taupe Eyebrow Cream. I really like this for how, like, I like how you could travel with this. Why am I having such a hard time saying this? I like the idea of this because I think it would be very good to take for travel. You've got one little piece here where you have a brush on one side, a little angled brush, and you have a, you know, brow cream in the other end. So you can sort of take this off, put it onto the brush, and you know, do your brows with this. And I think it's a nice compact way to have everything in one. And this is definitely what I would take with me for my brows to travel. For my last two finishing touches, I'm going to do some lipstick and some highlighter. In one of my last BoxyCharms, I received a Be Legendary lipstick in the shade Bombastic. That is this one. It is not the right color to go with the look I have on today, but I will say that I've made this work. Actually, I'll show you because it'll end up being covered up. I'm not really a bubblegum pink kind of gal, but if you sort of just put a little bit on, dab it on, and then really spread it around, you do get a very nice subtle pink, which is more my speed. Now, I also happen to have this little sample Smashbox Be Legendary lipstick in the shade Legendary, which is, you know, a brick red, but goes much more with my look today. Maybe a little too red for the orangish of my eyes, but hey, we're just playing with makeup. And it's a beautiful, creamy bullet lipstick formula. For my very last touch, I am going to use this Ciate Glow 2 highlighter, the illuminating powder highlighter that I received 2 BoxyCharms or Ipsies ago. I have been using this, I have been testing it out. I'm going to use it just with this little brush that I received in Ipsy, I believe. I will go ahead and say that I think this is nice, it's impactful. You know, you can really see it going on there. It's not my favorite highlighter, and I will tell you why. I think it has a little too much micro shimmer in it for me. And also it really highlights, one of the places that I have texture is right there on my cheeks. And some highlighters highlight that more than others. Because this is quite a bright highlighter, it does highlight it a little bit more. But if you want something bright and impactful, this is definitely going to do it for you. So this is the final look, and that is the end of my Chatty Get Ready With Me. I'm just very happy to say that everyone is alive, and you know, property damage can be fixed. So I'm thinking of those folks who have to deal with so much more with their property being damaged, and those folks who are injured, and sort of sending out my best thoughts to them. And I'm just very thankful that all of my friends and family are safe and sound, and that just damage has happened to things that can be fixed. That is all from me. I hope you enjoyed this. If you like these Chatty Get Ready With Me's, please give this video a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe to my channel, I will put my face up here. I'll throw another video up here if you want to watch another review or video from me. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.